You are a fully functioning career woman.
What is that?
Badass, being
Staying
great.
home is not an option.
Well, and
I'm
you
out here.
look fabulous.
You're sweet, thank you. I have 2 full-time jobs. I juggle mommyhood and then anchoring at night. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's what I wanted to start with because clearly you are a woman of a lot of hats. We're just going to jump right into it.
Of course.
But yeah, you're a mom, you're a wife. So technically you have 3 jobs.
Technically, yes.
Because family is
Although
not all going to one.
husband would probably argue I ain't doing one of the jobs.
Wow.
I'm teasing. No, I mean, I think we're finding our groove. When you have 2 very young children and 2 very busy working professional parents, there isn't a lot of time for the date nights and things. You have to be very intentional. That's what I'm learning. Especially because we just started the clock all over again and have a 1-year-old now. So
1-year-old, and then your daughter is
6.
6. Yeah, you definitely have your hands full. You were just talking about Pilates. Do you actually, in fact, have time for yourself where you do self-care and go to the gym?
I finessed hubby to give me a Pilates machine that you can fold and like take with you wherever. So sometimes at the station I will do the Pilates machine.
Okay.
But we have a treadmill, workout stuff there. I have to do stuff probably on my dinner break. That's like the only opportunity I have.
Wow.
But I am trying to improve all of that. You know how it goes. When a new year comes, you start having all these goals and benchmarks. And for me, I just want to be around for a long time for my children and my family. So you got to eat right, exercise, all the things that doctors tell you, and drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
A lot of water.
That's what they be telling us. But, we still throw in a
try.
funnel cake every now and
You know
then.
what I mean? It's still early in the year, so we're
Yeah.
I haven't crashed out.
Well, it's officially Women's History Month, so we're almost 3 months in. It's been a lot going on, and being that you do actual news coverage, you know all of the things that are transpiring. So I want to backtrack a little bit. You've been in media for some time. You're originally from Dallas, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, residing in Houston now, H-Town. Welcome here. The best
Thank
hood.
you. I'm about to say, I have to be very careful when I gingerly tell people I'm from Dallas because they immediately, start
I know.
snarling up their face a little bit. I'm sorry. It's so
It's just all
adversarial.
fun and games. We still have the better football team, but it's fun and games. It's love. I have a friend from Oak Cliff, and that's just our ongoing joke between each other.
Wonderful. I think both cities are great.
They definitely are. So let's take a walk down memory lane. Humble beginnings. How did Erica end up on this path in media?
It's crazy because I didn't grow up wanting to do television. This was not something that I dreamed of since I was a little kid. My first thing that I wanted to do, when I was old enough to actually realize what was what, I wanted to be the media person, communications person for the Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Mavericks. I was such a tomboy. I was like one of the managers for our boys basketball team in like 9th grade. I played sports myself. I have an older brother, my dad. I was a tomboy and I really loved sports and I loved to talk. So I was like, well, let me just blend the two. I can be the one running the news conferences, all this type of stuff. Didn't work out like that. I wound up actually going for psychology as my originally major. I wanted to be a sports psychologist. And I was like, okay, I need to be in school about 8 years to get a PhD to really start making the money. So no, thank you. And so, yeah, I came out with a degree in
I could see you as
broadcast
like
journalism.
a Jamel Hill. I could actually see that.
I used to want to do that. And, I actually had the makings of a journalist. I just didn't know it. So, for example, I was in Young Authors Contest when I was growing up. So I loved to write. I was in plays. I was in theater. So I was in front of people. I had to, perform in front of an audience. So in a way, I was already being kind of bred towards this career. Yeah,
and speaking of creative arts, I heard that you like to do some poetry. So is that something that you do in your spare time still? When you have spare
and I
time?
say, girl, what is free time, right? What is that? So I did it a lot more when I was younger. But I will sometimes. Sometimes I will just jot a little something down. And it's something that, is not a consistent hobby. It's just when I think of something, I'll jot a note in my phone now or whatever I have in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm being that I spearhead a movement that is always trying to extend the platform for female creatives to do great things. Whenever you feeling froggy, next time we have a showcase,
jump your way. Okay.
You absolutely should. I know that you'll fit right in. You fit the
Okay.
mold. It's not like you're gonna be shy.
With everything going on, shoot, I need a whole monologue with everything that's
Right.
happening these days and times. It's a
Right.
lot going on.
Right. So you are from Dallas, and you now have, because the thing with media, which a lot of people don't really see that is you're chasing this dream. A lot of times you have to go to a smaller market, then work your way back up. So what was that journey like for you?
So The University of Missouri, the Missouri School of Journalism, is very unique in that it was the first journalism school in the country and arguably the best consistently. And that's because the way that they do their studies is very unique. So a lot of schools, communication, journalism school, may have, an on-campus station, right? The University of Missouri, you basically have to work in the local market, an actual market, broadcasting to the state capital, et cetera. And I think at the time it might have been like Market 157 when I was there. But you have to successfully be on air at the NBC affiliate there to even graduate. And so that method, I think, was the best because it's just trial by fire. If you were good, everybody's going to see that you were good. If you sucked, everybody's going to see that you sucked or that you needed to improve very quickly. And so having that real market experience already in college basically paved the way for me to just jump up markets as soon as I graduated because I had already started, And so I went to Shreveport, Louisiana. Shout out to Ratchet City.
Shout out to the boo.
After college. And so I was there a couple of years, 2 years, and then I went to Jacksonville, Florida. So having gone to college in Missouri, I had swore after that I was not going to work in a cold place voluntarily, right? Unless this is like GMA in New York or something, they was paying me a lot. But I really wasn't feeling the snow. So I was applying to all places that were warm. So that took me out to the Sunshine State. So I was there in Jacksonville a couple years. Was still single at the time, and my boss convinced me to stay a third year. We just got bought by a new company right before the end of my second year there. So it's like, why not? I love the beach, no rush, no problem. So I stayed. And then what happened? At the end of that third year, I said, okay, I'm ready to either try to go big market or bust. I'm going to try to figure this out. My parents just come home to Dallas, figure it out. So I went home for about 5 months or so, wound up going back to Jacksonville 5 months later. The general manager there reached out and said, hey, we miss you. What will it take for you to come back? I was like, I ain't planning on coming back. But I did because the things I was applying for in this off season per se, in nonprofit, even some teaching, nothing was opening up. God just did not have it for me. And so it worked out. So I went back to Jacksonville at the same station. I launched a weekend morning show anchoring. They had never had a weekend morning show. And so then at the end of, I think, my 7th year there, I said, okay, it's time. By this point, I was married. And we said before we started having kids, we were either going to have to do something big or it's just not going to happen. And so the big was the compromise was being back in Texas where family could be close enough, where my parents could at least be within driving distance. And so, yeah, that's how that worked out. I missed a very important part of that story, but we can get into that if you want to.
We can go back. We can go back. What's the important part? How you actually met your husband, right?
Yes, that was the crazy part. So when I said at the end of that third year, right, when I had signed for the third year, I was getting ready to go back to Dallas just to figure it out. I had just come off an international missions trip, and I said I wanted to save the world in a different way. I didn't even want to do television anymore. I wanted to work in nonprofit and just do something different, something just more Greenpeace-ish. And so I met TJ a week before I moved back to Dallas.
Wow.
Yeah, through a mutual friend. Listen. So a week before I moved, a mutual friend of ours like, hey, I got these tickets to this, NBA exhibition game. I'll bring a friend, you bring a friend, take a break from packing. I was like, okay, cool. So TJ was the friend, and we wound up hitting it off. And it was so funny because my mom was in town to help me move and pack and all that. And so she realized I was like staying out late a couple nights and just looking really just zoned out. And she was like, you don't want to move, do you? Something's happened. I was like, well, yeah, I met somebody that's really weird because I don't know. I think he low-key might be in my life. She's like, that's really fast. I said, I'm telling you, I know. So I did wind up moving back. The move continued, right? We stayed in contact, visited all of that. And it was an opportunity to just go separate ways. Because mind you, when you move a long distance, you can keep it moving. But it didn't happen like that. And so it's crazy because, when the general manager came calling, I really had not planned on going back to Jackson. That was not an option. I was like, this was nice, but it's just, So I was in prayer about it the whole time, and if that wasn't a sign, that was a sign, to go back for increase, salary, position-wise, and then, the relationship wound up coming to be when I went back. And so we were engaged, I think, a year after that, and then married a year after that.
When it comes to mental wellness in media and creative arts, any sort of entertainment, anything in line with that, a lot of people really don't take the people behind the camera or in front of the camera into account, right? So before you met your husband, and the blessing is though, at least you do have a backbone in this, but prior to that, being a person to uproot your entire life, because the game is kind of the same in all media platforms, whether it's print media, radio, television, uprooting your entire life for this dream that you feel like is your calling at the time, and you going there, it not being all that you're expecting it to be, getting you to the point where it's just like, you know what? I don't know if this TV thing is for me anymore. How did that like really impact you? When do you feel that you can recall like you got to that moment where it's like, I got to get out of here?
There's been a couple of times in my career where it's been very overwhelming, and it's been a lot. You know, that period where I walked away for several months. Like I said, I had come off of an international mission trip and I wanted to work in nonprofit. I was tired of, quantity over quality. It was just get it fast, do it. And it was just, I didn't like that grind. It was also a period, after our first child was born where I really suffered with postpartum anxiety. Not depression, but anxiety. Like I was constantly worried about her state of well-being. Is she okay? Is this just worrying about her? And so all of these child abuse and child death stories really triggered me to the point where, and this was years after. This wasn't like, 6 weeks after I come back from maternity. This was like a year or two, even 3 years after. And some of these things started to trigger me to the point where I was having like panic attacks, like hyperventilating, breaking down in the parking lot, calling my husband saying, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. To the point where I was like, I may have to just walk away. And so what I realized was the things I had worked hard to get past were coming back in television in detail, right? Because we're responsible for reading things in depth and the charging documents and the court records and things in depth. We don't get cliff notes. We have to read every single detail, every single quote, every single, in this case, level of abuse. And so it represented the very fears that I had. A child not being in a state of well-being. So that was recent. And within like the last 2-3 years, I was like, I'm going to have to just keep it moving and do something else because it was affecting my mental health that bad to where I was shaking and hyperventilating. And then at that point, there's nothing that photographers can do. What are they going to do? At that point, my day is over. Like, how are you going to console me? They're not psychologists and psychiatrists. What are they going to do? And so this was happening consistently. I had to set up some boundaries, and I had to kind of raise a red flag with management and say, listen, we all have a tough job to do, but this particular genre, I'm going to have to lay low on that. Or somebody else going to have to, kind of pick up that slack because I'm not doing it. And then that also is part of the reason why I shifted to now full-time Monday through Friday anchoring in the evening and not, because previously I was the weekend morning anchor. And so I was reporting 3 days a week and anchoring weekend mornings, right? So I kind of was hybrid and I did both. Well, now I was like, I ain't even going to be able to do that because there's a chance I'm going to have to keep doing these horrific stories. Can't do it, won't do it. I will go be a stay-at-home mom. I will go work at HEB. I will do whatever I need to do to grind, hustle. You know what I mean? Because I just know that this is a limit and I cannot keep having physical reactions and panic attacks. It's not worth it.
And your job obliged you when you made that request?
It was perfect timing because, yes and no. I think they did the best they could with what they had at that time. For example, there was no guarantee that I was never going to not be put on a story that would trigger me, right? Obviously, everybody is in that industry. We know that the world is getting worse and worse and that we are going to encounter something horrific and awful and disgusting and despicable and just unspeakable. But they were mindful. They heard me. They were aware. And then and honestly, and I say it's twofold because it happened to work out, I think, right after that, a month or two after that, that one of our anchors wanted to leave the night shift. Her life was changing, and she wanted to come off of that, and it worked out to where I was able to go into that spot and then start anchoring full-time. So, as we say, won't he do it?
Right, won't he will.
God knows our heart and what we need, before we need it, when we need it, during all of it. And so it worked out perfectly to where I didn't even have to threaten nobody any further or do, besides raising the red flag and setting my boundary, I didn't have to do much beyond that.
Being a Black woman in corporate America, being a Black woman in media, a lot of times you do not get to list your demands, and they are obliged by any means. And so as we're talking about your journey in media, bringing you to this point right now, a lot of times you have to tone down your own emotions. You have to give the news and keep your opinions to yourself.
That's right.
So being a Black woman in this industry, how have you been able to navigate that, Erica?
It's been difficult. And the running joke is some of the camera guys, it's so funny, the photographers, they were saying, well, some people on some of the posts and blogs, they call you an activist, say ABC 13 is so liberal, look at all the people they hire. I'm like, well, I just might be. So my rule of thumb is this. So I have different audiences and different viewers for each platform. This is what I'm learning, right? There's certain things I can post on Twitter or X that I may not post on my Facebook fan page. Or there's certain things on Instagram I may not post, somewhere else. My most radical, out of control comments come from my Facebook fan page. No doubt about that. I think I have over 50,000 followers on there. There's a lot of eyes, and I don't know where all of them come from. If there's something that's even borderline political or seems as if I'm leaning towards a direction, it's going to be insane. Insane. And so I say that to say I am mindful of what I post. Everything, if people follow me, especially on Facebook or Twitter, they know that those are very thought-provoking posts. I try to keep a good head on my shoulders in terms of, could this offend this person, could this not? So I do things in not even a passive-aggressive way, but I do things in a very gentle way. And then there's things that I don't tolerate, and I tell people in the comments, here's what we're not going to do. We can talk about race, we can talk about discrepancies, we can talk about disparities, we can do this and that, but here's what we're not going to do. You're not about to cuss this person out, you're not about to disrespect me, you're not about to say anything negative here, A, B, C, D. So I have boundaries there too, but to answer your point, yes, it is difficult to hold my tongue, but I try to be mindful because I know my audiences and I know where there are safe spaces. And I know, and I've tried to master and get better at how to have these very important conversations without alienating everybody. But it is difficult because, as I said many times to my coworkers and colleagues, I feel like we're in the Twilight Zone. I don't know what episode we're on today. We're in an alternative reality. I don't know what's happening. A lot going on. I've said that on the air many times. A lot going on. So this is my 18th year on television now, so I'm not a little pup in the game. So I do take some responsibility of choosing my words carefully and hopefully being mature enough to read the room in different rooms.
So being that you are an activist, you are,
according to the people in the streets,
and you have quite a lot of tenure, are you passionate about the statistics that, Black media platforms in general is under 4% in this country, radio stations, I want to say even TV stations under 1%. Could you see yourself eventually wanting to branch out and fill that void?
That's a great question. And I've had something heavy on my heart for many years. I just don't know what that blueprint looks like. So the latest prayer has just been like, God, I feel like you're calling me to more and to bigger. Open up that path and let me know how to do it, who to meet, who to talk to, what to do. I will tell you, a couple of my mentees know this, but I will tell you that this month I do plan on launching, at least on social media, and we'll see where it goes from there, but a journalist, mentor, mentee type of club, type of group. Because one of the biggest things that I'm approached with is, how do I navigate this as a young journalist? How do I do that? And can you be my mentor? Can you this? And I wouldn't be where I am without people pouring into me or without mentors. And so, yeah, I'm launching it this month. It's going to be a mentor-mentee type situation. We're going to have, roundtable type discussions. We're going to really just help each other do life because it's tough in this industry, Black or otherwise. If God calls me to something bigger, I'm down. But I just know that I'm ready, I'm available, I'm willing to pivot, I'm willing to go whatever journey I need to because I feel like my life is not my own. Because I didn't get into this business wanting to be rich and famous or with an ulterior motive. It was to help people, truly. My freshman year when I first went to college, there was a girl, I'll never forget, I tell this story often. Poor thing. I don't remember her name, so I guess it's a good thing. But she asked me, before even knowing my name, had I ever seen a shooting? And so, mind you, we just moved in. This is freshman in the dorm. And I was like, no, have you? Anyway, time goes on. She's like, I've never seen a Black person with freckles. She came by my room. My roommate had left the door open.
So I'm assuming this was a white woman.
Yes.
Okay.
She's like, oh, you have really nice things, as if this was a shock. Come to find out, the little girl had never gone to school with Black people, been around Black people, interacted with Black people. She was from a small farm community in Illinois. So all she saw was Black people, either, Chicago market, St. Louis television, whatever, right? Robbing, stealing, and killing, acting a fool, which is why she assumed, apparently, I was from some crime-ridden environment who was just barely scraping to get by, and so on and so forth.
They're on DEI.
That's right. That's right. So for me, I said, okay. At this point, I had changed my major from psychology to journalism. I said, okay, I see what time it is. If not me, then who? It's going to have to be on my back. My dad tries to keep me, I guess, abreast and afloat of all types of topics. He wants to make sure I don't turn to the Black correspondent. But by default, a lot of the times that I do, and I don't mind that, because if not me, then who? Because I do have a unique voice, and I remind viewers all the time, I'm a Black woman. I hear what you're saying, but I am a Black woman. And so I have to wear all those hats at all times and carry the load in different ways. And so if that branches into something bigger, if that branches into something more focused, so be it. I'm ready.
Maybe the biggest mistake that you've made in your career, or what would you say has been the biggest lesson learned? Or they can go one within the same.
Comparison and timelines, right? I've been guilty like so many women. I want to be married by this date, and I want to have kids by this age, and I want to be in this market by this time, and I want to have this and the white picket fence and be making it to ABC Network and CNN, all these things, right? Life doesn't work like that sometimes. There's shifts, there's setbacks, there's stumbling blocks, there's twists, there's turns. And so I would have taken that pressure off myself a lot earlier. So I encourage my babies, as I call them, my journalism babies. You got to go your own path. It's so hard not to compare. It's so hard not to say, I'm going to be an old maid forever. Dating's hard. It is, and I've been there. I didn't get married till 30. I didn't have first baby till 33. I just had a baby at almost 38. I'll be 39 this month in March. And so, you can't do timelines. You just can't. So I would say that's the biggest lesson that I've learned.
Yeah.
And be flexible when you do have to pivot or when God says otherwise about some things. And sometimes no is a blessing.
Yeah.
I think in our perfectionism and our type A ways and journalist ways and everything has to, fit perfectly. Don't work like that sometimes. And you have to be joyful and, willing to receive a new plan. I think during those difficult moments, that's the time to really press in. You can get distracted. You can ask everybody and name. That's one of the first things, too, I tell my babies. Stop talking to everybody about this. It's too much conversation going on. It's too many ears. It's too much advice. It's just too much going on. You need to. Have you talked to God today? Have you written this down? Have you sought wise counsel? Your parents. I said, keep this circle tight. I'm like, y'all can call me and tell me anything, ask me anything. I will walk you through it. But this needs to be tight, right? And I think that just comes with maturity and living life. And so those are the biggest lessons I've learned. You can't have that circle too big and those big shift moments. You got to press in and really quiet yourself and humble yourself and listen and be around those guarded, trusted people and hear from God. And then be okay when things pivot and your timeline is blown to bits. It doesn't work like that. Some folks still having babies over 40. It's okay.
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah, it's okay to have a geriatric pregnancy. I'll be right there with you
when
I make a decision.
Mine was hella geriatric, okay? Mine was at risk of geriatric, they said. I'm like, okay.
Well, when you tell stories and when you talk, you have I don't know if that sounds cliche, but you do a very good job of getting people to listen. Because some people talk and I'll be quick to scroll past or tune out very quickly. But I remember, and I have not entered into that chapter of motherhood yet. But I think I sent you a message on IG one time because you had just had your son and you were talking about your experience and obviously just a lot of unfortunate statistics that come with Black women and maternity and maternal deaths and death while birthing and people not taking you seriously when you're saying that you're not okay. And I literally, it had been like 1:30 in the morning one night. I might have just gotten off of a DJ gig at the club, and I was just like, all right, Erica got something to say. And I literally sat there and I watched all 20 minutes. And I was like, wow, I said that was really powerful. I feel like I was even tearing up at one point. So you definitely have a gift and are blessed to bless. In the words, that's what my mom always says. You're blessed to bless, and that you tell your story, and it is just a certain level of authenticity to you. Where we are in a world now with social media, a lot of people are just talking to talk, or talking for views, or talking to get a reaction. But you can tell a lot that you are speaking with intention to actually try and help someone through your own experiences.
Well, thank you for that compliment, and that goes a long way. I really appreciate it. Yes, I do try to be very intentional and genuine in everything that I do. I may be a lot of things, but one thing I am not is, inauthentic. I'm what I say is what it is, right? And what you see is what you get. And so I think that is a gift, and I think that's a strength. I used to think that it was problematic. Now, let me be clear. Let me differentiate. There's a difference between obviously being authentic and speaking to people, and then there's a difference between not having decorum, being ignorant, and just off the rails, right? I've had to practice that. I've had to ask God for wisdom. I've had to think before I speak. I've had to practice some things. And so I think that just comes with maturity. I really do. I think, and just trying to be locked in. Before I do any event, before I talk to any group of kids, before I do anything, I ask for God's hand in that I say the right things, that I receive their hearts as best I can, that I give them what I have as best I can. So I'm not just out here willy-nilly. So I have to say there is intention behind it. And then, sometimes I've learned too that some of my hardships or things I've gone through, it is a benefit for somebody else. Because God gave me the gift of gab and the ability to express myself and be very transparent, right? But people know everything about me, so my social security number. You know what I mean? Like I've always shared everything that I have in hopes that people can get something out of it, or maybe not have to take that path. Or if they are on a difficult path, they'll realize, okay, Erica did it. She made it through. She got to the other side. I can do it too.
So the landscape is changing. Everybody wants stuff on demand now. And with that, you're starting to see a lot of these major networks that are doing these major layoffs. I want to say
Yes.
CNN just cut like 6% of their staff, and they're investing all of these coins into having these people that can just give you news on demand. Everybody's got a platform now with social media. What would you say are your thoughts on the future of news, radio, television, print in the next 5 years?
Ooh, honestly, it's changing. That's
Yeah.
one of the first things I plan on addressing with this new group. Landscape is changing. It's changing. And I wish we could slow it down. I wish we could stop it. I wish we could deter the train. We cannot. I think as far as television, you will see a lot more aimed at streaming and digital broadcasting, because the thought is a lot of people aren't sitting in front of their TV anymore. What they're doing is, what's the first thing they do when they get out of bed? They're scrolling, right? And at this point, it's like habit, right? We're looking at whatever, TikTok, Shade Room, wherever you're getting your sources of information, that's the first thing we do, right? We really should be doing something else.
We should.
We should be meditating, we should be praying, we should be drinking some water, we should be
Right.
doing something else. But that's what a lot of people do, right? And so in television, I know for a fact, a lot more companies and big tech folks they're going towards streaming and the ability to look on your laptop and your phone. I know that for a fact. We have invested a lot more in streaming shows, like actual shows that you can just watch, whether your Fire Stick app, right? The ABC 13 app, you can turn it on and you can watch on demand. You can watch a previous special we did. You can watch us streaming right now, the 3 o'clock show, the 5 o'clock, or whatever. You can just watch it. You can watch that on your phone with the app, right? So you'll see a lot more of that in television. I'm not sure how some of the other avenues are going, but clearly in print, right? They're having to go subscription-based, right? They need the revenue. They're doing digital. A lot of people are reading the Wall Street Journal on their phone. They're reading the New York Times on their phone. They're doing the Houston Chronicle, in another way, where it's not even just videos anymore. Pictures anymore. They're doing videos as well. So that landscape is fast and quickly changing as well. Advertising, the way people advertise, that's different. A lot more, what I appreciate about the Missouri School of Journalism, I think when I started out, there were 5 tracks. It was like broadcast, print, photojournalism, advertising, and convergence, which is like a blend of a few of them. I think there's 30-something now because they know they've had to pivot to a bunch of different spaces. And so I think that's what you'll see. You'll see a bunch of different branches. But I think it'll all center back to digital. No doubt about that. And AI is going to be a factor.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I'm on Chat. Lord have mercy. Chat GPT. See, look at it. Look how it's already taking effect because they're saying that we can't even think for ourselves.
Our digital brains are something else. Now, I don't know if they're going to be having, like in Japan, anchor robots.
Right.
But, because at the end of the day, you still need a human being, I think, who's making fast, quick decisions, who can pivot. They claim AI can do that, whatever. But in some spaces, it's absolutely used, 100%. So I think that that's going to grow by leaps and bounds. Even within the next year, AI will be very dominant. Not even just present. I think it'll be dominant within the next year or two.
So for these kids now, teens, young adults, still have an interest in traditional media, whatever that means to them, what advice would you give to them?
Stay the course. It's changing rapidly, and obviously a lot of people in journalism who want to go in this field, they, to a certain degree, are very type A. They're organized. They like things structured. They like timelines. They like deadlines, or can at least function within them, right? That is going to have to soften. That level of expectation is going to have to soften because things are changing rapidly. The industry, the game is changing, and so just temper your expectations. Do all things with joy and flexibility, because if not, you either going to want to quit anyway, or you're just going to be so discouraged, you still wind up quitting. You know what I mean? So you have to stay the course. I mean, I graduated with, I don't even know. It was a low number, maybe 80-something broadcast journalism kids. It started with like 4-something my freshman year. It dwindles and dwindles and dwindles. I don't even know how I'm still on television, okay? I told you that I tried to quit like 2-3 times. But, like, you know, it dwindles. And so I would say the work is important. It's worth it. Somebody got to do it, and somebody has to do it well and do it fairly and with a good spirit and a good heart and honesty and integrity. Those things are gone nowadays. People are just doing. I am proud to say in my 18-year career this spring, that's when I started my junior year, spring junior year, I started on the air. I have never done anything inappropriate, off the rails, or unethical for a story or to get ahead, ever. If I got to do all that, I'm just going to quit and do something else. I've never done that. So stay the course, do things right. Integrity and excellence, do it right.
Make sure your source is credible too, Lord Jesus, won't he will. Oh.
That's another problem, right? Everything is, let's get it on first, let's get it fast, let's push it out, let's let's get it pushed out to the website, let's get it on TikTok, and nobody's even checking anything. That's the first thing I say. My husband, I feel like he can be a journalist. I've trained him so well. If he sends me an article, I say, well, who's the source? Who said that? Yeah. Well, so-and-so ain't said that, so I don't know. You know, I ain't heard ABC say, I haven't heard whoever, right? And so check your sources and do things well. Don't be so fast that you messing up and you just set things 10 steps back.
Yeah.
Be patient, be diligent, be excellent, have integrity, and stay the course. If you can make it in these industries, please do.
If you could wake up tomorrow, be anything you wanted to be, do whatever you wanted to do, what would that be?
It's a brilliant question. My joke and my threat to TJ all the time is, I'm going to be a stay-at-home baby mama tomorrow. I joke to him all the time. I was like, these kids, I'm telling you, their schedules, their lives, their doctors, I was like, I'm telling you, I need to be a full-time stay-at-home mom. But I tease him. I say, he's like, stop saying that. I don't know, maybe a teacher. Maybe a teacher, a professor, something like that. First dream that I wanted to do, I wanted to work in like community relations. In college, I worked in the athletic department and the community relations department. I love blending things. I love to speak and talk and interact and meet different people. I love to travel. So, I mean, probably, well, you know what? I take that back. My new venture going forward would probably be media coaching. If I were to get out of television tomorrow in 2025, I would probably go that route.
What has been the most important story that you would say that you have ever reported on in your career?
Having lived in 3 different states, of course, I've interviewed governors and politicians and, celebrities, quote unquote, all this stuff. But, whatever. I hate to say it, but I'm really not even impressed with that. It's so funny. TJ jokes all the time. He's like, you're not even like blinking at this person. I'm like, they cool, but like, what's a celebrity, right? So I've never, and I went to a very competitive high school too, so I've always been around, I feel like, top-notch athletes and this or that, or people who, So for me, that's not a thing I remember. I'm like, oh, really? I interviewed them? Oh, okay. But I think for me, it would be something that changes the stereotype. So for example, when I first got here in 2017, this might have been 2017, 2018. I've still been 2017. I think I'd only been here a few months. And there was a gentleman who used to stand at the corner of 59 and Shepherd. And he had a sign, he was unhoused, and people would see him all the time. Meanwhile, a few blocks away, there was a woman who was at the gas station. Somebody, went through her passenger door while she's pumping gas, grabs her purse, okay? They take off, wind up dumping it a few blocks later. I don't know what they wound up getting out of it. This man finds the purse. And he says, well, I'm going to call my girlfriend to, look through it because I was taught to never go through a woman's purse. Long story short, they put their heads together and they wound up finding a business card or something where they're able to call the woman and reunite her with the bag. And so it wound up being bigger than just that. Not even just saying, so for example, like I said, this broke a stereotype. This helped change perspective. This helped, garner empathy and humanity with people, because a lot of viewers and people are very hateful.
Of course,
they're ignorant and they're nasty, right? They hate all people.
Right.
They hate immigrants. They hate this person. They hate whatever it is, whatever it is at the moment. They just don't like them, right? So in this case, somebody who's unhoused, right? Somebody's stereotype could be they're untrustworthy, they're lazy, they're this. No, this man was previously employed, fell on hard times. He's doing the best he can right now. Speed up the story. Wound up getting reunited. Me and that woman wound up connecting, not even just for the story, but even after that, to where we were able to land him an apartment, get him a job, and just really help his life shift because we both cared enough to say, okay, this is more than just a man on the corner. This is somebody. And somebody from, Potter's House up in Dallas wound up calling and say, hey, we saw this, Bishop Jakes, T.D. Jakes wound up paying, I think, a couple months' rent.
Wow.
Like, it ballooned into something bigger than us. So I would say that type of story is my favorite. It's bigger than me. The reach is beyond me. And so, and then shifting those narratives and stereotypes. Because we're all somebody. I used to always say, would it be street dude killed on the corner or whatever? I would say in my reports, he was somebody to somebody. I get it. Everybody has their notion of this. Well, who can? No. That's why we go and talk to the moms. That's why we go and talk to the best friend. That's why, and so what I do is to hopefully help spark better human response in people. And we need it because I'm so sick and tired of all of the nastiness. And I'll tell people, I'm like, you're nasty.
Yeah.
You obviously need the Lord. You're nasty.
What do you want Erica Simon's legacy and lasting impression to be?
A woman who is genuine, who is caring, who hopefully tries to help others along the way. I hope I'm remembered as a good mother, a good wife, a great friend. I pride myself in being a very loyal friend. I strive to make my parents proud a lot. It's funny, growing up, I didn't do a lot of things. I wasn't sneaking out. I wasn't doing it. The only time I ever got in trouble growing up was, I think I was 30 minutes late for curfew coming from a movie. Like, I never wanted to disappoint my parents, people who sacrificed for me. So I think I want to make my parents and grandparents and children and those around me just proud, to let them know I have them in mind when I'm taking steps and making decisions. And so I would just say, hopefully, a selfless woman. I'm a very dynamic, feisty woman. Let me be clear. Pro TJ, if he could be on here, he'd be like, y'all have no idea what y'all are dealing with. I think I'm very passionate in many areas. And so I can be feisty. I can be very, very strong-headed in some ways. But I think at the heart of that is very pure, and I think it always centers around helping somebody else. Before I got married, we were engaged. He and I just got engaged a few weeks before. We both went on a mission trip to the Dominican Republic, and we said then in 2015, may we never be too busy to serve. So whatever that looks like, in whatever capacity, my legacy when I'm dead and gone and I'm on the corner of gold and platinum in heaven, okay?
Come on.
With my mansion. I'm trying to build my riches now. Is that Erica stepped out of herself and tried to help others. And that's been my prayer, is that may I never be too busy to serve. I think that's a good lasting memory. May I never be too busy to serve.